Okay, so now we're going to look at circles. There's, different parts of a circle you might be familiar with. The diameter that goes all the way through, and then obviously the center, and the radius that goes halfway from one side to the center. So the radius is the distance from the center to any point on the circle. So it can go from the center out any direction, but it has to come from the center. The radius is equal to 2 times the diameter. The diameter is the distance through a circle, and it has to go through the center. The diameter is equal to twice the radius, so the diameter would be the radius. Oops, I'm sorry, I wrote that backwards. The radius is going to be half of the diameter, so diameter divided by 2. And the diameter is multiplying the radius times 2. Sorry about that. So let's fix that real quick. So to get the radius, you half the diameter. To get the diameter, you times the radius times 2. Okay, so we're going to look at 2 formulas that are going to involve the radius and the diameter. So the circumference is the first one. There's actually 2 formulas for circumference. There's a radius formula, it's 2 pi r, and there's a diameter formula, pi times diameter. Then we're going to look at area. Area of a circle only has one formula, it's pi r squared, so it's only dealing with the radius. So anytime you see the r, that's radius. Anytime you see d, that's diameter. So if we're looking at example 1, we want to find the circumference of the circle. There's 2 formulas, radius, diameter. Well, on this particular problem, I am given that the diameter is 4. So I'm going to use the diameter formula. So the circumference is going to equal to pi times 4, which is the same thing as 4 pi. This is the exact answer. If you were ever to wanted to get an answer that was a decimal, you would hit 4, your pi button is right here, and you hit your arrows, and it's going to change it to a decimal. So for right now, we're going to leave it exact. Okay, find the circumference of the circle. Once again, this is the diameter, so I'm going to use the diameter formula, which is pi times diameter. So it's going to be pi times 23, which is 23 pi. All right, now on the bottom 2, we are given the circumference of the circle, or wanting to find the circumference, but this time we are given radius, 2 pi r. So I'm going to do 2 pi times 9. You can type that, 2 pi 9, into your calculator, and it'll multiply 2 times 9 for you to get 18 pi. Now, if it ever says round to the nearest whatever, you need to hit your arrows. So, same for example 4. This is a radius. So 2 pi 58. Push 2 pi 58 in my calculator, I get 116 pi. Okay, now we're going to find the area. There's only one area formula, pi r squared. So, this case, you always need a radius. Well, on the first example, we're given the radius is 9. So pi 9 squared. Type that directly into your calculator. Pi 9 squared is 81 pi. Okay. Same for example 2. Find the area. So we need pi r squared. This is a radius, pi 58 squared. Type that into your calculator. You get 3364 pi. Okay, now on this one, this is a diameter, but we need the radius. So to get the radius, you take your diameter and divide it by 2. So our radius is going to be 4 divided by 2 is 2. So pi 2 squared is your area, which is 4 pi. Okay, same for example 4. This is a diameter. So we need radius. So we take 23 and we divide it by 2 and we get 11.5. So we do pi 11.5 squared. I am typing that directly into my calculator. Now, this time I do not get a pi answer because we already had a decimal. So we're just going to round to the 10th, the first decimal place right here. So I just rounded that up. So since it didn't give me a pi answer, you know, there's not going to be an exact because we started with a decimal, we're going to end with a decimal. Okay, now we're going to take these formulas and we're going to find the radius or diameter given either the circumference or the area. So since I'm looking for diameter and I have circumference, I'm going to use my diameter circumference formula. So where the C is, I'm going to put 34.6 because it says the circumference is 34.6. So that's where C goes. I don't know what the diameter is, so I need to solve this equation. To get diameter by itself, I divide both sides by pi. So in my calculator, 34.6 divided by, or you can hit, this button or the fraction button like I did, pi, and I get 11, and it says to the nearest tenth, so 11. So the diameter is 11. Same for number 2. Take 14.5 and set it equal to pi times diameter. So to get rid of the pi, we divide 14.5 divided by pi is 4.6. Now, this time we're given area. When you're given area, you have to set this number, whatever number they give you, equal to pi r squared. I'm going to do my work right here for this one. So 196.1 has to equal pi r squared. This is number 3. To get rid of pi, we divide, just like we did on 1 and 2. So 196.1 divided by pi is 62.4. Well, I still have this r squared here. So to get rid of the square, we take the square root. So I'm going to take the square root of 62.4 and I get 7.9. Now, the problem is I just found my radius. This question asked me to find diameter. So I need to take my radius and times it by 2 and I will have my answer, 15.8. Okay, so same for number 4. Start out, it says area, so I set the number equal to the area formula. Divide by pi. And I get 49. I have to get rid of the square, so I take the square root. Well, the square root of 49 is 7, but that's my radius. To get my diameter, I times it by 2, so our answer will be 14. All right. So now, find the radius of each. So I'm going to take my circumference formula right here and set it equal to my circumference radius formula, 2 pi r. I divide both sides by 2 pi to get my radius. Now, on this particular one, you have to hit the fraction button. 69.1, fraction button, 2 pi. If you hit divided by 2 pi, it's going to mess up. So our radius is going to round up to 11. Okay, so 28.9, set it equal to our radius formula, 2 pi r. Divide by 2 pi, make sure you hit your fraction button, and you get 4.6. Now our area problems are going to be exactly like these area problems, except for we don't have to do this last step. Once we find our r, we're done. So we take our number and set it equal to our area formula, pi r squared. So 2 steps. Divide by pi. So you get 4 equals r squared. Take the square root. So the square root of 4 is 2. And I get to stop because it asks for radius. All right, so 320.5, it says it's area, so I set it equal to my area formula. Divide by pi is 102. So then it take the square root, and we get 10.1, sorry. Okay, the very last two are going to be like similar to the same process we just did on those. But this time, we want to find the area given the circumference. Well, I know I need radius to find area. So I'm going to use my radius formula when my circumference, my 69.1. So we divide both sides by 2 pi. Remember, you have to use the fraction button. And we end up with 11. Now, I want to find the area. Area equals pi radius squared. So pi 11 squared is going to be 121 pi. Oh, it says round to the nearest tenth, so I do need to hit my arrows, which is 380.1. All right, last one. Now, find the circumference given the area. So I have to start out with my area formula. My 2 steps. Divide by pi. We get 16. Take the square root. So r equals 4. Now, since I have radius, I'm just going to use my circumference radius formula. 2 pi 4. 2 pi 4 turns into 8 pi. This problem says round to the nearest tenth, so I'm hitting my arrows. So I get 25.1.